Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today are Louis D'Souza and Anne-Marie Young. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And continuing a recent trend, we are guestless today. This is, I think, the third time in the last couple of weeks on various days that we haven't had a guest. So we're flashing back to when we just used to have conversations among ourselves, which is cool. I'm liking that. It's also the time of year when we're all anticipating the advent of Christmas, preparing for all the stuff that goes along with that. It's a time of year that can be both thrilling, especially if you have young children, or a big challenge, especially if you have young children.
So true.
It works both ways, right? But it could also be a challenge because of you're hanging out with the relatives. I mean, here in the U.S., we actually get double dose of it because we also have the Thanksgiving holiday a month before that. So we have the time with the relatives where you're dealing with all of the relationships that are either good relationships or not so good relationships or challenging or whatever, and then you do it again a month later. So
I couldn't imagine it doing it twice. I mean, I love Christmas, but I couldn't imagine doing it twice. My goodness, I'd be exhausted.
So, and then there's people who just they don't have someone to spend Christmas with. I mean, so you can go to that end of the gamut too. So it's both an enchanting time and it's a challenging time, and sometimes it's both. And so I kind of toss that out there as maybe a starting point for our conversation today, because we all know wherever we start, it doesn't matter. We're going to go off in some sort of tangent direction, but I figured that's kind of like a starting point. Because Anne-Marie, you missed last week, but I remember the week before you mentioned something to me about how you were anticipating Christmas and getting ready for it, but you're probably feeling both of those emotions, right? I mean, both the excitement and oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's months of planning for me. I mean, I love Christmas, just love it. But there's a lot going on. Like you say, there's a lot with kids. There's school discos, there's Christmas jumper days, there's this, there's that, there's Chris Carol services. So there's a lot going on in their world that I'm trying to remember. There's a lot going on in sort of my world, trying to see all friends, get everything ready, all the presents, get them wrapped. There's just so much to do, but I love it. Nothing like a good Christmas movie and wrapping presents with a glass of red wine.
There you go.
Just a great feeling, just finding those little things that you love. But yeah, there's a lot to do.
Now, Louis always has a very even keel approach to just about everything we talk about. Although, Anne-Marie, I have to say, there have been a couple times that he's mentioned situations where he would fly off the handle. I thought, oh my God, there's a side of Louis we haven't actually seen before. But I kind of anticipate it's going to be similar to this. So, Louis, I mean, what's your approach to Christmas? How do you handle the holiday every year?
Well, just to paint a picture, yesterday we had a whole lot of family around. So because we're not here over Christmas because we're in Austria, we decided to get my brother and his wife around, and my niece who's over living here for the moment from South Africa, and another relation of ours in London. I can tell you who she is. She's my father's mother's second husband's son's daughter.
Okay.
Well remembered.
Very well done. Yeah.
So there's some relation there, and we had them all around, and we had this huge turkey. I mean, literally, massive thing. It says on the tin, at least 8 people. And it was valid. There were 12 of us, and we didn't even touch sides. But my wife made some incredibly, some like sauerkraut type stuff, and all types of weird and wonderful things, and they were all so delicious. You have no idea. Just all home cooked and all the rest of it. And then we go to Austria, and then we have this huge tree and all the presents underneath it, and then we have this big meal, and then after the meal we hand out all the presents, and then the next day is Christmas Day, and there's usually snow for the kids to roll around and throw snowballs at each other and ski and all the rest of it. And it's just a very different environment where there's 6 kids, because my wife's sister's got 2 and her brother's got 2, so there's 6 kids there, all of us, and with grandpa and grandma, and all of us together, and it's a huge affair. And then this evening I went out with Rotary, and we got the sleigh, which is all lit up and some music blaring, and we go around door to door, and all the kids can come out and shake Santa's hand and all the rest of it.
Nice.
Pick up donations, and usually we make about £4,000 per year on
Wow.
the
Really good.
thing that we do. So I've done it today, and I'm doing it on Wednesday, and all the other Rotarians are doing it on other days and other things. Because there's 50 people in the club, so we all. And then you get kids from the school to come and help go door to door, and everything's well organized and lit up. And I was a marshal, and I was guiding everybody, make sure nobody goes to the same door twice, and don't want to bother people. And there's a lot of kids on the streets and all the rest of it, and it's really a lot of fun. I mean, I never expected it. It's the first time I've done it. They've been doing it for the last 50 years or so. But I just went out for the first time today, and it was really, really pleasant. Everybody was so nice and kind and helpful and talkative. And this one lady said she works in the local town, and she's been helping out for the last 10 years. She just comes along for her own volition, for no other reason than just to come along and help out. So a lot of the community just get together and help. And then my daughter wants to go, Isabel wants to go on Wednesday, so
Nice.
she'll go along and help out as well. It's all very interesting. All these donations. I mean, the club is just tremendously effective in bringing in money and clothing for the Ukrainians recently for last week. Massive amounts of donations, huge, on a scale I'd never dreamt of. And all getting shipped in there for the cold winter for the Ukrainians. And so Christmas has a lot of hats for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of different things going on, but it's all good stuff. And then the White House, my naturalist group has a Christmas party, and it's a everybody brings along their own stuff, and it's only a tenner, and they supply loads of different things, and it's just really fun. So you've got tons of things going on. I just had a Christmas meal with some of the friends I used to do my exercise class with, and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's just good to catch up with everybody and see where everybody's at.
As you were describing that, and it sounds really fabulous, by the way, as you're describing all of that, it occurred to me there is a distinction that I haven't never really thought about before. But as it comes to my conscious mind, yeah, of course, it's true. If you encounter somebody during the Christmas holiday who's not a relative, just somebody, you're, like you said, involved in like a charitable thing, or just out with family or whatever, everybody's all very kind to each other, they're friendly and so forth. But if it's relatives, it's not always that case. The friendly people are the ones who aren't the relatives, which is a weird thing.
Yeah, so you just have to disown your family and you can become
That's right. Yeah.
And you know the reason for that, because you can bullshit your friends, but you can't bullshit your family.
Well, you could try, but you'll get in trouble.
You can try. I doubt you'll succeed.
Yeah, they don't let you get away with too much, do they? No, not really. No, but it is one of the beautiful things, though, about the Christmas holiday, because Christmas has actually grown way beyond the religious part of where Christmas comes from.
Which is why the Christians say, "Bring Christ back into Christmas."
Well, some of them do anyway. Yes.
Some of them do. You're right.
Some of them just keep right on celebrating. They don't worry about it.
Some ban Christmas from their entire family completely.
Right. But that's one of my favorite things about the fact that it has expanded so much, is that it becomes an excuse every year for people to feel good about each other, to be kind to each other, and to be high vibrational, without necessarily even knowing what high vibrational is, or letting yourself know what the value of being high vibrational is. I think everybody likes the idea of being happy, but that's more of an ephemeral thought. It's not something that's a mindset for most people, or a goal to be achieved. But nevertheless, that happens every single year. And one of my favorite places to see it is in the grocery store. Right? You're at the supermarket, you're getting your groceries for the week, and people just start behaving more friendly than usual. People that you've never seen before, and you won't see them 5 minutes later, but they just start. People are
You
smiling.
obviously
Oh,
haven't been to
excuse
a
me.
British supermarket.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I should qualify that. Supermarkets in the northeastern part of the United States. Let's leave it that way, just to be safe. But possibly in Virginia too, because I remember the same thing happened in Virginia. Of course, with Virginians, that was also a thing too, because you never knew with Virginians. They would smile all the time, even if they hated you, which was really confusing. but
Well, the
okay.
problem with supermarkets these days is we never get into one. Tesco's delivers every week, and I don't see the inside of a supermarket anymore. Yeah, I don't miss it. I can tell you that.
Apparently, yeah.
But it's so true. Well, the little one had a school disco, so I was just walking along the road to pick her up from school this evening, and everybody's got their lights on and their hedges, and it just makes me smile. I just love seeing it. So I'm just literally walking down the street with a big smile on my face, looking at everybody's lights. And
you could be going, Anne-Marie, you could be saying, "You've got too much money for electricity." You can choose to be either way.
This is true. And the element of choice shows up very clearly with the fact that it happens every year. I mean, it's not like we've never seen this before. We saw it last year and the year before that and the year before that, but we never, those of us who love it never seem to get tired of it. It's always fun every single year. It's a beautiful thing. I love that.
But when you look at your children, Walt, there's definitely a different level of excitement.
Oh, I'm sure. Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, I wish I was like that again.
I think I actually am more excited than them.
Really?
Are you?
Yeah, I love it.
You're practicing Christ's commandment. Become like children.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Well, actually, exceeding children at this rate. I mean, if you're liking it more than they are.
Well, I still believe. No one's going to tell me different.
All right, that's good.
So, what has Santa ever brought you?
Everything.
Yeah. Just depends on how you decide what Santa is.
Well, my dad looks just like him, so I can't not. It's literally it's the type of year where my dad's not allowed to say hello to me when he video calls. He has to answer the video call going ho ho ho, because he's got a big white beard, big white hair.
That's funny. I love that.
And all year round. Sorry?
How old are you?
Over 35.
A little bit over 35, yeah.
There's actually a television commercial circulating around the United States right now. And in that commercial, I don't remember what the commercial is about. I think it's about mobile services or something. But in the commercial, you see Santa on the phone with just an average person. And Santa is texting. And the average person texts back to him. And the text says, "You only have to work late one night a year." So even in the commercials, it's coming in as, it's funny. It's funny.
But the big challenge is waking up Santa to get ready for Christmas. It's a big thing.
What do you mean?
After a year's sleep.
Oh, I see. Okay. Gotcha. Well, I mean, I there's lots of theories about what Santa does during the year. I like the one where he goes to the Bahamas. I mean, just hang out on the beach for a while.
Well, the child in me is just going, someone's got to do the work, look after the workshops. Come on.
Yeah. Well, that's what the elves are for, though. The question is, when do the elves get the time off?
Wow. Boxing Day.
Yeah, I mean, that's a rough job. Because they spend all year making all the toys, right? You got to really love
it Boxing Day in America, Walt?
We don't normally. We know what it is. We know that in Britain and other countries they refer to it as Boxing Day, but no, we don't. No, it's just another day.
It's just another day. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I remember for years. I didn't know why. Well, I actually looked that up one time because I wanted to learn why it was called Boxing Day. But I remember when I was younger, not knowing what Boxing Day was. I'd heard about it, but we never did anything with it. So of course I had no, experience with it. And I didn't understand, why would you want to box somebody the day after Christmas? It didn't make any sense to me.
It's all because you got boxing gloves for Christmas.
That's what it is. Yeah.
That's because you're spending time with your family.
Yeah. That was the closest I could come to an explanation. Like, okay, I can kind of get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Richard Bach's Illusions, the book, when it says, you will know your friends in the first second, but your family may live with under the same roof forever, but you'll never know them.
A lot of truth in that statement, yes.
Then when you look at it from an enlightenment point of view and a contrast teaching point of view, everybody's on the same page and everybody's happy clappy, then you don't learn too much, do you?
Well, I don't know. I think the premise is a little bit flawed, isn't it? Because
it is a bit flawed, but it's
do we all live on the same level?
We can have a conversation.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to remember a time where everybody in my circle was on the same level. I can't remember one. I mean, I'm not even sure if I can think of one where it was close.
That wasn't the premise, the flawed premise aspect I was thinking of. But
well, not so much flawed as unrealistic, like, rare. Let's put it that way. Very rare circumstance. Extremely, extraordinarily.
I think it's rare if people have to work 9 to 5 and the people around them they're kind of forced together with. But when you're kind of in my situation where all the friends you've made are kind of friends you've made, you're not forced together with them.
Oh, okay. So you're excluding relatives from the group then?
Oh yes, of course, definitely. Yeah. We were talking about family versus friends, weren't we?
Okay. No, I was just talking about spending Christmas, just spending time with people. And,
just spending time with people.
Yeah. I mean, all on the same vibrational wavelength. I can't remember the last time that happened. I do recall times with family years ago when we would try to be all on the same level or try to pretend like we were on the same level, but it was just forced. I mean, you could tell. So it doesn't really count.
But there's one thing I did very much perceive at certain stages growing up in a big family was there was a family vibration. When we all got together, there was something very, very comfortable about it all. Very harmonious and protective.
Well, that's nice.
There's a lot of words I could probably throw at it, but I did very much perceive that, specifically in our big family. But these days I really see a family that's harmonious around me. All my daughter's friends and all the rest of the stuff that goes on. It's unbelievable.
Welcome to the contrast. A lot of fun.
I think, that having a really balanced, happy child is really almost the exception these days. I don't know. That's probably being a bit bland, but, just looking at all my daughter's friends and all the rest of it. There are a few.
I think the challenging part is looking as if a person is always on a certain level, either unbalanced or balanced or whatever. Because I think the reality is everybody just kind of slips in and out. As time goes on, as the year goes on, sometimes as the day goes on.
No, I never lose my rag, never.
I've been getting involved in swing dancing more lately, and I started taking some classes again because when you want to get back involved in that kind of community, it's helpful to take the classes because that's where you meet your potential dance partners. So that when you're at an actual dance, oh yeah, I know you. You want to dance? Sure, okay. So I'm getting back into that again, and I actually took a private class because there was one dance style salsa that I hadn't done in a long time, and I'm taking a rather advanced course, and I couldn't quite keep up with it. So I figured, okay, I'll take a private class with her to just kind of get myself up to speed, which worked out very well. After we were done, it was an hour class. After the private lesson was done, I asked her, what you up to today? And she says, oh, well, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and we're going to go cut down a Christmas tree at a Christmas tree farm. I said, oh, that's always fun. And she was kind of half excited about it. And I was kind of curious why she was half excited about it. And then I realized what it was. It's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's fun because this is the first time that they're starting to get really aware of what Christmas is all about and what gift giving is all about and so forth. And on the other hand, it was a lot of work for the parents because, you know, the kids pick the tree out and maybe they push the saw a couple of times and then it's up to dad to basically do the rest of it. And mom's trying to marshal the kids from going off and, you know, doing something else to get in trouble. I mean, they're constantly still being parents. So there's both sides of it going on at the same time. So is that a balanced situation? Is that unbalanced? Is it both? That's what I mean. There's a lot of gray area that goes on here.
It's what you make it, really, isn't it? I mean, I just look at it as I'm making memories for my children. And I'm making memories for myself because they're not going to be this little forever. Right. So I'm just loving that. And I always make sure, like, every year we have a family day where we go away and we go ice skating and we go for dinner and we just have a good old fun Christmas day and just make those rest. And it starts to be traditions. And those traditions, I think, are quite lovely as a family because it unites you. So
that's also appreciation. I mean, you're doing some big, big time appreciation there.
Yeah, it's special.
I see the smile on your face.
I'm just a bit shocked at the moment.
Oh, why is that? Hey, this is a banner moment, Amory. We shocked Louis.
Is that because I was ice skating?
No. This is Isabel shocking me because she's just so big now. She's like full-grown adult almost, wearing mom's clothes. And, it was like so grown up.
So you're going to let us in on the secret, or is this like?
No, it's just that I don't have a little baby girl anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not allowed to happen in my house. I'm not allowed to grow up. Told you, living with mummy forever.
Never land. Okay.
No, can't wait to kick him out. Come visit on weekend.
See, this is what I was talking about. On the one hand, on the other hand, right?
Hey, I brought them up to be self-sufficient, self-reliant. I can expect them to stay at home after that. I think my expectations will be thwarted.
Well, I think that probably means that the best expectation to have is just to expect them to be themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's where the real appreciation is. Although it is fun when they're that young. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It really is. Doesn't have to be your kids even. Just to being in the house with kids who are doing that, doing all that stuff, learning all that stuff. Just watching their eyes, watching their expressions. And,
I'm going to miss that.
Back too. Oh, yeah. Well, you never really lose it, though, do you? Because
I don't know.
The reason I say that is I still remember, when I was relatively that age, I remember what it was like for me. So that's why I said I never really lost it. It's still in my memory.
But I also remember being 19, 20 years old and having Christmas at home and just being hungover and not wanting to get up in the morning.
Oh, okay. One of those Christmases. Yeah.
One of those Christmases, going out with your friends and things. So I remember those days, but yeah. But as they're not growing up, that's not going to be an issue, is it?
I have, unfortunately, my crystal ball isn't currently working. It's in the shop. I'm not sure when I'm going to get back. So I'm just going to leave that one alone.
I just wanted to say hi to Jeffrey.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Hey, Jeffrey.
How you doing? Nice to have you joining us today. So we're just chatting generally. We're just having a good time because it's one of those rare occasions where we don't have a guest. 2 weeks in a row here.
Jeffrey, give us a subject to talk about.
Oh yeah, Jeffrey can come up with in about a minute. That he's really good at coming up with these very involved. He was involved with a an interview we did last week, and he was writing out these detailed questions. I think it was David Strickle who was on with us on Thursday. He's writing all these detailed questions, and so forth. He's so good at that guy. A lot of fun. So let's see what else is going on. Well, we're dealing with, actually something else I wanted to bring in. I kind of referred to it earlier, but like I said, the Christmas holiday also can be challenging for people. It can be challenging for people who are alone or who feel alone. It can be challenging for people who are living with and dealing with, to put it politely, dysfunctional family units. For some people, Christmas can be traumatic. And is traumatic. And so I bring that up to just give us something else to touch on, because I think we all agree there's choice involved with that. But there's also that idea that there's choice involved is a challenge, because so many of us feel like,
when the Russians are bombing you.
Well, okay, not what I had in mind, but all right.
Yeah, there can be challenges.
Yeah.
So JB says keeping vibration up during the holidays. So aren't your vibrations going to automatically up during the holidays and go down when you have to go back to work?
Well,
again, it varies. Yeah,
it depends on your situation.
Some people have to work on Christmas Day. Yeah,
this is true. Yeah, yeah. Although not quite so many. What I've seen. I mean, if you ever, I've traveled on Christmas Day. For instance, for many years while my parents were still alive, I would travel from Connecticut to Virginia, driving on Christmas Day.
You call that traveling? It's still the same country.
Well, when it's a 5 to 600 mile trip, yeah, I call that traveling.
Traveling.
I mean, you're driving all day long. I think it counts, But I'd be driving along, and literally everything is closed. I'm on the highway, and I'm seeing shopping malls off to the side, and the parking lots are empty. You never see empty parking lots, but you do on Christmas Day. Or you get off an exit and you drive through an intersection to what is normally a local business area, and it's all empty. The streets are all the parking spaces are open. I mean, it's just a completely different experience. So you're right. There are some people who do work on Christmas, but most people they're off the streets. In fact, I have a number of friends who are Jewish, and for Jewish people who don't in any way celebrate Christmas, it's an interesting day. Because they'll go to one of those restaurants where the few people who are working are actually working, just so they can have some place to go and enjoy themselves and so forth. And the restaurant's like 3/4 empty, because nobody's there. So yeah, it's quite the experience. I'm not sure if that's the way it is in the UK, but that's very typical here in the US.
I think one of the ways that I will be consciously working with trying to even raise my vibration higher is listening to some rampages of appreciation. Just finding them really nice. They really help us take you from wherever you are a little bit higher.
JB posted something interesting.
You can always be higher.
JB says, I work with people who are dying. Holidays can be a very sad time for some. And that's true.
Yeah.
We've talked here on the show with a number of people who work in palliative care, helping people end of life, helping family members end of life, with some interesting dialogue, by the way, because
I have a wife who does that all the time.
That's right. Your wife does that. That's right. And the perspective on that is really interesting, because on the one hand, JB's right, that is a very challenging, very sad time for many. On the other hand, for a lot of the palliative caregivers, they it's not like they're looking forward to the person dying, but the whole experience for many of them is very uplifting. So it shows what's your perspective. How are you thinking about
it? But again, some people, the way my wife puts it, some people die terribly with absolute fear, and some people have, surrendered to the resignation of the unknown and go peacefully. And it's really interesting watching the different way people choose to leave. And in the last hour is not the easiest time to start getting a person to look at it differently. they've got a whole lifetime of vibration building up to that point. So it's my wife says the biggest thing she can do is she spends a lot of time just talking to them as real nice people, just talking to them. And she invites some around, like this guy's really into philosophy and all the rest of it, and he's this Canadian guy that's quite popular at the moment. He's very into him. And we were having these long philosophical conversations outside over a pot of tea in the sun, with this old guy who's in the palliative care there. And, so it's, we have some great times with some of these guys. A lot of them have still got compass mentis, etc. But then there's a huge amount who needed to go down the dementia route so that they can forget their past. They don't have so much challenges for where they are currently. And my wife says as they're losing their marbles, it's a really tough time. But once they've lost them, they're the happiest people in the house.
Yeah.
And it really shows you how your memory tortures you, how digging back into the past, those things you did not like or want.
JB says, I've also seen families brought together by death and dying, more so than even holidays. It can be very beautiful. Yeah. In fact, that reminds me, I had a guest on the end of last year who was a nurse in that field. And she told a story about how there was this one person, end of life, and she apparently knew how close she was to passing because she got all excited and sent a message to the main station for the ward that she was in saying, "Get my sister. She's in the cafeteria. I'm transitioning.
Wow.
I love it. I'm not kicking the bucket. I'm transitioning.
I'm transitioning. Like, I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this forever.
But it is.
But for somebody to be that aware that they're transitioning is amazing. It's incredible. I want to meet that person. Somebody who actually knows when they're transitioning clearly, consciously. That's amazing. I love that story.
I was going to say there is a lot of expectation this time of year to have a good time and to make everything perfect. Which
you mean you're not going to Austria for Christmas?
I am now.
Keep up with the Joneses.
But I think when you lose somebody this time of year, I mean, we've had a couple of like young adults, or young children, sort of like die in the town recently, and there's just something about it happening this time of the year that's just a bit more heartbreaking because you just know it's tinging. It's a kind of a time of celebration, and people losing their sons, their children is just, I just find that quite difficult.
It all comes down to your perspective, doesn't it? How do you feel about what you're observing?
Exactly. And we know they go to a better place, but yeah. That's left behind.
I don't know that.
I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm going to Lapland.
All right. That's a better place, is it? Nice and cold there.
And there's also people who have experienced the loss of a loved one before the holidays. I can think of a good friend of ours that her husband passed in early to mid-November, I think it was. And if I remember right, she's still dealing with funeral arrangements and all that kind of stuff. So she's kind of in the early stages of the Christmas holidays, and she's dealing with the loss of her husband. So that the passing part has already happened, but the effect is still there. And I've been texting with her about it, just checking up with her, making sure everything's okay and so forth. She's doing pretty well. But she acknowledged the stress is still there. I mean, until she gets all of the arrangements finalized, she still has to deal with it every single day. And that's a challenge.
You remember I told you about this boy who committed suicide recently? He was part of our sauna group, etc. And their parents organized the funeral, which took like a month to organize. And then when the day came, they said, sorry, we postponed it. I don't know, you could postpone a funeral, but they were so distraught about the whole thing, the family couldn't face having the funeral. You know, it can be very challenging for a lot of people.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention was when I was young, probably 9, 10 years old, my gran came to stay with me during her last days, and she walked past my bedroom and, here's some Smarties for you, Louis. Oh, thanks, Gran. And then she went off to bed. And Dad knocked on my door a little bit later and he said, oh, I want you to come see something. And he took me to Gran's room and he said, look at Gran, she's dead. I said, what? And I looked and said, she looks so peaceful. And he said, yes, that's what it looks like. And I said, oh, okay. I couldn't eat those Smarties for a couple of weeks. But you know, yeah, it is not easy.
Yeah. I think we all have various memories and so forth that kind of come to mind. Now, okay, now Jeffrey has a question for us, and as usual, it's well thought out and quite verbose. So let me read it to you. He says, over the years, the religious reasons for celebrating Christmas have waned for me. Parenthetically, he says, I also see it amongst my friends and family. And then he says, and capitalism took over. But that too has changed post-COVID. So I'm wondering why we still choose to observe. Where is our attitude towards, quote, the holidays, unquote, moving toward as we spiritually coexist and co-create globally? I think the answer is going to be different for every person, but how about for you guys? What's the answer for you?
Well, capitalism is very interesting because it's the biggest religion in the world.
There's a lot of truth to that.
So you're moving from one religion to another. And, you know, when you say Christmas has waned for me, has Christianity waned for you? Or if you're a Christian, or whatever religion you are, has that waned for you? Because if you, if Christianity is waning for you, then of course Christmas will wane for you as well.
Not necessarily, because in my own case, Christianity waned for me when I was in my teens, but Christmas increased and has continued to increase since then.
The spiritual side of it or the capitalist side of it?
Neither one, really.
Okay.
Well, I guess I could say the spiritual side. For me, when I use the word spiritual and Christmas in the same sentence, that usually means the religious side. So the religious side pretty much died away for me. But in my mind, Christmas goes far beyond the original Christ story. Christmas has become kind of what I was talking about earlier. I was talking about how people are just more pleasant and happier, high vibrational during the Christmas holidays as a broad rule of thumb. And that's what I love about Christmas. Christmas has managed to grow beyond the bounds of the Christian religion and be accepted in a more global sense as a positive thing. And I love that part of it. I mean, I don't know what you guys have there. Probably some stuff similar to what we have here. But for instance, we have Christmas fairs. And you can go to a Christmas fair and there's there's like decorated stuff all over the place. And there's a, there's a Santa exhibit and there's, food for sale. And they've got gingerbread houses that are decorated. And it's beautiful. It's joyful. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's way beyond the Christ story. But to me, that's what Christmas has evolved into. Now, yeah, there is the commercial side as well, but I don't necessarily have to associate the commercial side with what I'm describing here. To me, they're separate. They kind of touch on each other, but it's almost secondary. I don't even think about the commercial side much anymore.
Average household in the UK spends about £800 for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell my husband I spent more than that, will you? No, but for me, yeah, every year I always focus when I am buying gifts and things that I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And this year I'm taking the girls to the toy shop so we can buy gifts for people at the moment who may not be in that position.
Nice.
So we're doing that. So we do that with the food bank, and trying to teach my girls that they're very lucky, and we help each other's out. We look after each other. But for me, Christmas, yeah, I mean, it can be very commercial, but to me, it just feels like it gets magical and magical. And it just seems like it also gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Like we'll see friends on Christmas Eve morning, we'll go and have breakfast together, and then we see grandparents and we go to our favorite restaurant for dinner on Christmas Eve, and we're going out with all of our friends and meeting up again on the 23rd. So it just seems to be there's all this stuff, and it's all this meeting with people that you love, that you want to spend time with. And I personally just love that. And the thing I'm most looking forward to isn't presents. It isn't necessarily Father Christmas coming for the children. It's finishing work and spending time with my girls, baking cookies, whatever it is we do, go into the park, go out on our bikes, whatever it is, just having that opportunity to have time with my family.
Yeah.
And that's what just makes things bigger every year for me.
Now, one could make the argument that that's actually the true meaning of the Christ version of Christmas. I could actually make that argument fairly easily. I think most Christian churches have kind of twisted the whole thing around. But if you actually look what the person was all about, that person was all about spreading joy and love. And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about spreading joy and love, in your case within the confines of your family, but still you're spreading joy and love. And well, actually beyond it, because you're also giving to other people who are not having the means to do the same kind of thing that you've been doing. So it's actually expanding beyond your family. And that all fits what that personhood was all about, that the whole Christian thing got built up around. So in that sense, it's all still connected.
Maybe, but it's not. I'm not doing it for that reason.
No,
see what I mean? I'm not, yeah.
No. But what you're doing is a celebration of that spirit,
Yes.
and that's that to me is what it's all about. It to me, Christmas is a time to raise your vibration, and in doing so, you share a raised vibration with others. That's Christmas to me. And I love the fact that we have the excuse to do that every 12 months.
Exactly. And I think, well, we do have the opportunity to do that every day if we
Sure.
choose.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's why it just gets bigger and bigger for me.
Yeah.
Because I do just love that. And yeah, my vibe just goes through the roof.
It's quite funny. I often ask people, are you a Christian? Oh, are you a Christmas and Easter Christian? 99% of them say yeah.
But even that's become less of a thing. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think I saw a news item that said that a recent poll in the UK said that Christians are now in the minority for the first time.
In the UK?
In the UK. Globally. Yeah.
Yeah, lightly.
No, I can strongly believe that the family unity in the UK has gone absolutely pop. It's not as strong as it at all. It's extremely weak from what I've seen. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just see a lot of families they don't stick together anymore. They're like biting each other's backs and fighting each other. They're not happy, and they're hating each other, and I don't know.
Now the other part of that same survey, the survey identified that the number of Christians was down, but the number of people who just generically describe themselves as spiritual is up by about the same amount.
Oh, yeah.
So people have kind of shifted, like I don't count myself as a Christian anymore, but I count myself as spiritual.
And the reason, one of the reasons I believe the church is losing people is because it's not changing with the times at all.
Very true.
And even it is, but it's doing it way too slowly.
Always has.
I remember when I arrived in Ireland 27 years ago, condoms were still illegal. You'd go to hell if you used a condom.
Right.
Or contraceptive of any nature, and you couldn't even buy them. You had to go to England to buy them. And then a few years later, it's all legal now. You won't go to hell anymore.
Right.
What? How
Special
does that
dispensation,
work, please? Please explain that one to me.
I gave up trying to explain the church a long time ago. It just doesn't work. Anyway, you try to go on it. Ugh.
But Jeffrey, you're right. Let's see how we can be more and more generous. Let's see how we can give more and more to those, and specifically, even if you don't have a lot to give, if you can just give of your own happiness.
Oh yeah, well that's a lot.
If you can,
It
it's more than
doesn't have to
everything
be
almost.
it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
money or anything like that. It's literally a gift of spirit.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean if you can make it
And
money,
and
so much
that
better.
requires you to get yourself into a good feeling place.
Yes, this is where it becomes really valuable to recognize and to apply as early as possible in your own life the knowledge that we get to choose our response in any given situation, and then learning the skill of doing it, of actually applying what it is we choose to apply rather than what by default the circumstance dictates we should be feeling. The circumstance dictates, oh, we should be feeling bitter or angry. Well, okay, is that the one you're going to go with? Well, we actually can learn how to do our own by our own choice. We can actually choose a completely different. We can actually choose to find love in a situation where you're supposed to find anger and despair and frustration. Not easy at all, but we can do that. That's part of the invitation of the Christmas spirit, as far as I'm concerned. It's the invitation to grow your own ability to select.
There was this lady during the Second World War who was in a house taken over by the Germans. And, they were kind of like cooking and feeding them and all the rest of it. But she always had this very high vibration, and everybody else looked up to her.
Mm-hmm.
She was always very positive. And the house through the entire war was never bombed once, never shelled, never attacked from either side.
Yep.
Never. And that place stayed intact the whole way through. And the guy that came to take it over and run it from the German side was a very honorable, gentle, humane type guy. And it was just, and it was all, I think, just because of that one lady's very high vibration, that nothing would come into her area without the kind of protection that her own aura would facilitate.
It really does illustrate just how powerful one human being can be within the sphere of their own their own life. Yeah.
But even when there were bombs falling around her when she was away from the house, nothing touched her or anybody around her. It's just amazing.
I think you just shared one, but Jeffrey asked, does anyone have any Christmas magic experiences to share or experienced a Christmas pivot? A Christmas pivot. I like that phrase. Now we're all casting back.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's all just magic
story
to me.
I can't tell.
You can remember it. He's just not going to tell folks. Sorry.
Yes, I unnamed, no person in. Well, can't name the person. Yeah.
Well, actually, I can think of one that's directly out of my experience. Yeah, it involved my wife Louise. It was December 2018, and that year, Louise had already developed hyperthyroidism, and she was really, really sick. And she was so sick that she had to go into the hospital on Christmas Eve. Very, very sick, like to the point where I was really concerned about her survival. And I remember we were in the emergency room. We were waiting for the doctors and nurses to do their stuff, and they were, filling her up with fluids and all the usual stuff that they do. And they were giving her drugs to try to stabilize the thyroid. And in the course of all that, she and I got to talking about how, well, tomorrow's Christmas, but when it comes to, they were saying, we'll probably have to keep you over for Christmas as well. And a few days beyond that. And that just didn't resonate with us. Like, no, that's not the way it's going to be. And lo and behold, Christmas night at around midnight, her body did, I call it a thyroid flip. Basically, her thyroid did like a reboot on a computer. Her whole body did a reset. and suddenly her thyroid started working properly. She had also had an arrhythmia. I forget what they call that. There's a phrase for that.
Heart beating irregularly fast.
Irregular heartbeat, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not that. There's a specific kind. I can't think what it's called. Fibrillation. She had a fibrillation going on, and all of it reset, and suddenly everything was working properly. And the nurses at the nursing station had her all, of course, she had her all wired up, and they were watching the boards, because at one point she flatlined because her body was doing this reset. And the lead nurse who was on duty had been through this kind of thing before. And one of the other nurses was saying, "Oh my God, we got to go take care of her." She says, "Nope, wait for it. And about 20 seconds later, she started getting into sinus rhythm again. Everything started to work properly, and they were cheering, and they were so excited because here we are. This is how we're starting Christmas Day at like 12:04 a.m. That kind of a thing. So we had our little Christmas miracle that year. And then I found out about it the next morning, because I had gone home to sleep after I had no sleep for like 30 hours at that point. So I needed to sleep. And when I woke up, I got this call from Louise. She was so excited that her heart had reset, her thyroid had reset, and everything had gone back to normal. We had gotten exactly what we had asked for, because she got discharged on Christmas Day.
Perfect.
That sounds great.
So there's some Christmas magic for you. Yeah, that was fun. That was a good memory. Christmas magic, though, isn't limited to Christmas, though, is it? I mean, because it's the whole holiday season. So anything that happens in that period, that
well,
I mean, magical.
I can cast my mind back to when I was a very young kid, and we just opened all the presents. It was Christmas Day, because we hand them out at 11 o'clock in the morning, Christmas Day in South Africa, and that's the way we did it. So we had a whole house full of people, hundreds of people in the mountain house in South Africa. And I was banished to the sewing room, which is a tiny little room off my parents' bedroom.
Why were you banished? I'm curious.
I was banished because we had so many guests, somebody stole my bed.
Oh, I see. Okay. That kind of banishment.
I wasn't banished, yes. I wasn't banished for any other reason. I used the word just because I was thrown out of my room. I didn't like. So I was playing with all my toys under my. It was one of those canvas type things that you slept on, stretchy canvas, metal frame, and all my toys under my bed, and I was playing with them madly and having a lot of fun with them. And then the lightning and thunder came, and it was absolutely torrential. You know, the rain was banging on the corrugated iron roof. The lightning was all over the place. The thunder was rocking the house. I was just playing with all my toys under my bed at Christmas. I remember it vividly to this day. It was like so infused with energy on all different levels.
Yeah, especially if you have that much rain happening with that kind of a thunderstorm, the electricity in the air is going to be rampant. Yeah.
The storms are incredible in South Africa. So the UK doesn't have any idea what they're like. I remember going to a restaurant.
But not that bad.
I went to a restaurant in Durban in South Africa once on one holiday when I was out there, and the rain started, and the lightning and the wind, and all the chairs were blown off all the way down the street, and the rain was absolutely like huge blobs of rain were hitting the window pane. Everything was getting washed away, and there was a river starting, and it was like the thunder and the lightning was just, it's incredible. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite as, I suppose I could use the word violent as that storm. It was really, and then, it wasn't a tornado or anything like that. It was just one of the normal storms that pass by. But it was one of the most vivid ones that I've ever seen. My kids were there, both of them. And, I know Isabel definitely. But it was so incredibly scary for them. Not having experienced anything like that before. Like, whoa! This is amazing. And the rest of South Africans sitting there. Oh, where's the next course?
Oh, big deal.
Yeah.
Jeffrey posted a reference to a memory of his Christmas to New Year's 2005, catching crocodiles in the Okavango Delta, Botswana.
Oh, wow.
Okay. That's a mememory, all right.
Now,
Catching
why
crocodiles.
were you catching them? Were you making handbags or biltong? Or?
I mean, did you have a death wish? What's going on here? I don't quite get it.
I went to a crocodile farm once, and they had thousands of crocodiles there, which they made handbags out of and all other things. But I've never seen so many crocodiles in my life. Never. I mean, they're all in different age groups, in different pens, but like heaving masses of these things. Absolutely massive. And they said the amount of game they had to kill all the time to feed all these guys is incredible.
Crazy. Wow.
But, it's not only cows we farm.
Yeah, apparently. I had no idea so many crocodiles were giving their all for purses around the world. I mean, really? Wow.
And other things. I think they used every single bit of the crocodile. Nothing
that usually happens. Yeah. But you talk about the storm that you experienced when you were a kid. And I can't say I've ever experienced a storm quite like that. But the closest I've come to is when we lived in Virginia. A number of times we had tornadoes passing very, very close by. And you really, it's kind of the same feeling. There's electricity in the air, and there's also a lot of fear because you never know where a tornado is going to go. We had one come like within a half mile of where we were living. We could see it going down the highway. And I was like, oh my goodness. But it didn't veer off in our direction, which was a very happy thing. But yeah, that was, and afterward we asked ourselves, why weren't we, cowering in the bathroom? Instead, we're looking out the window. The one thing you're not supposed to do during a tornado, we're looking out the window. Yeah.
It's not something you see every day, is it? You
No.
kind of just want to have a peek. The curiosity takes over.
Well, plus I also had an experience of influencing a storm. I've had a number of experiences influencing weather, and one particularly, it wasn't a tornado. It's what they call a microburst, which is kind of like a little mini tornado in a sense. And it was coming right at the house we lived in Virginia. You know how you can go onto the weather websites and you can track the radar and you could see where storms are going. And if I zoomed in on where our house was, there was this deep red splotch that was moving at about 40 miles an hour right at our house, and it was about 5 minutes away. I said, uh-oh. So I call out to Louise, we got to do our thing with the weather. She says, what do you mean? I said, there's a microburst coming right at us. It's going to be here in 5 minutes. Okay, so what do we do? So we ended up just doing what I normally do. I just focused my attention with all my might on what kind of weather do I want instead. So my favorite weather is 70 degree Fahrenheit, which is roughly 28 degrees, 26 degrees, something like that Celsius. Blue skies, little puffy white clouds, sun, just gorgeous weather, little light breeze, very, very comfortable. And I try to imagine that as much as I can. So I did that in this case. And then once again, I did the stupid thing. I went outside to see what was happening with the weather as it was coming through. And it was a really weird experience because our house had trees all the way around it. And I knew that the trees were going to be like my weather vane. They were going to tell me what's going on. And sure enough, they're waving all over the place as the microburst is coming through. And there's crazy stuff. You can see, few houses away, you can see all kinds of crazy stuff happening. Directly over our house was blue sky. So the storm went around us on both sides, which was really, really, really weird. In fact, afterward, we drove around the neighborhood to see what had happened. And if you went more than 3 houses away from us on either side, it looked like a bomb had gone off. But our house was pristine. There was nothing, not even a limb down. There was nothing. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So there's a way to end the show. like, oh my God, are you insane? What happened there?
I love that.
The
I
eye of
love
the
that
storm.
story.
Yeah.
Mm.
I've never forgotten that one. The microburst that we redirected. Sorry, neighbors. Hey, that's all I could do. I could just, like take care of my own space. I couldn't take care of anybody else's at that point. That was the most I could accomplish. Well, this has been a fun conversation about the holidays. So we'll be doing more shows, of course, between now and then. But I'll take the time to wish both of you happy holidays, and we'll do it again later on. And happy holidays to all of our listeners, because you never know when people are going to listen to a show. They may be listening to this on Christmas. That'd be kind of cool. So,
yeah.
I just wanted to mention I'm away from the 17th to the 1st.
Oh, you are? Okay. Oh, that's right, because you're off to Austria. That's right. It's that time of year. All right, good stuff. So thank you guys very much. And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care, everybody.